Hello, Michigan gardeners. This is Doug at Buzzard Family Farm. We're on Verona Road, just outside of Marshall, Michigan. It's Friday, April 22nd. It's Earth Day, and I'm going to plant sweet peas and calendula. So I've actually got them planted and staked, but I thought I'd show you, what it looks like when you're finished. The sweet peas, I had Elegance and Mammoth for varieties, and I did roughly 40 of each. They were started in the greenhouse in flats, real easy to do. I find starting them in the greenhouse is better because then if it gets too wet and cold, as it did this year, the seeds, if you plant them directly out, don't rot. They actually can germinate in a warmish, coolish kind of greenhouse. So I did 2 wide going down through the black plastic. The dirt was soft enough so I could just make the hole with my hand in the black plastic, staying on each side of the drip tape. Again, we have, for irrigation purposes during the summer, we have drip tape that gets hitched up to a header line, and that runs down through the center of the bed. And it will drip water in there into the bed and keep the plants obviously well hydrated and happy. So I went 2 wide on each side of the drip tape, and then I put a stake every 2.5 feet or so, and then put twine. We use tomato twine, which I've got here in a box, and it just feeds out, and I put it on a belt around my waist, and I start really low so that the sweet peas have something to grab onto, because they're a vining crop, and if you don't get them to climb up, your flowers and the plants are going to spread out on the ground, and that's going to be not a very good picking situation when you go to cut the flowers. They're going to be dirty. Stems aren't going to be as long as they would have been if you get them to grow upright. So I went down and then went up 2-3 inches or so and kept the twine coming back, and I just kept zigzagging back and forth until I reached the top of these stakes. And the sweet peas will climb up this high and probably would go even higher if we had taller stakes. The other thing I planted down a little bit further was the calendula, also known as pot marigolds. So I put those in here at the end of the sweet peas. The sweet peas are back here, and then I left a little bit of a space so I can get through to the other side of the sweet peas if I don't want to walk all the way back to the end of the row. And then I planted the calendula. I did those 3 wide. So one is very near the drip tape, the one in the middle, and then the 2 outer ones are not as near the drip tape. Calendulas are a cool weather flower. These have been out in the cold frames, as have the sweet peas, for a couple of weeks now. And we haven't even been putting the covers on the cold frames for these guys. So they've gone through nights in the 20s, and they're all fine. They make it through that fine. The next thing I'd be planting would be snapdragons. I've just put those out in the cold frame, so I'll probably later next week plant the snapdragons, and I'll work on a video for that too, as I did last year. But the staking process here is going to be a little different. Last year I didn't stake the calendula or pot marigold, whatever you want to call it, and they got a little bit floppy. And some flower growers will use a netting that they move up as the plants grow. We haven't gone to that yet. I'm not real excited about adding that job in, but we find that if we use our stakes that we use with the tomatoes, and we use our tomato twine, which again you can see here on the sweet peas, if we use that, we can usually provide enough support so that it keeps the flowers upright. They don't get quite so floppy, which the calendula did last year, and then it makes it harder to get a good cut stem. So I'm going to run and get some stakes. I'm going to pound them, and then I'll show you the twining process for these guys. So we've just cut our tomato steaks in half or in thirds, and then I just put right around the outside edge. And I'll do it on the other side also. And then I'm just going to pound them in a bit. And then I can take the twine and again put it a little bit off the ground, maybe 2 or 3 inches, and go around, basically corral in these flowers. So as they grow, they have something to lean against. And what I can do is either finish it off now and come back out and do another tying up to keep them, again, growing upright, which is kind of like the flower netting that they use. They keep moving it up. Or sometimes I just go ahead and do the next twining process right now. And then as I'm coming through the field, if I notice anything needs to kind of be pushed back in the corral because it's flopped outside for some reason, then I can push it back inside and get it to be supported again. I might have to come back out and add twine. It's okay because I'm out here on a daily basis cutting flowers as well as trying to make sure they're still supported. But like I said, we haven't quite gone to the point where we're ready to do the flower netting at this point, where you continue to move it up and it keeps the plants growing upright. This is just kind of a little corralling technique. This is the same technique I use on the snapdragons. I did a video on that last year, and it just seems to work pretty well to give the flowers some support. We use this on peppers. The peppers seem to respond pretty well to that. Sometimes we just do one tying, sometimes we do a couple of tyings. We use the taller stakes for the tomatoes, obviously, and twine them, actually go right around the plant too, to try to get it to climb up and be upright so the fruit doesn't fall on the ground. Same thing for the peppers. It's really a lot nicer to pick the plants. If you get high winds or something, it knocks the plants. This tends to just give them enough support that they can push against it, but they don't flop completely on the ground. So that's how we do this. Like I said, probably next week I'll do another video on planting snapdragons. We're pretty much done digging perennials. I'm still waiting for some late perennials, like your fall anemones, windflowers, some people call them, those to emerge so I can find some things to dig. But even though it has been an exceptionally cool spring, we've dug most of the perennials. I'm still working on ornamental grasses. I'm going to get more of those done today. We've got a sale on the perennials going on right now through the 27th of this month. $5 for gallon perennials and $10 for 2 and 3 gallon perennials. So if you're interested, this is a great time to plant. These perennials were all grown outside in Michigan conditions, so frosting, freezing, heat, anything you throw at them, they are ready to handle. They are conditioned to be outside in the environment. We have not given them any greenhouse time to get them warmed up and shooting out new growth that might get hurt if we get cold again, which it does look like middle of next week. We're going to have a couple of days in the 40s and nights in the 20s again. So until next time, I'll see you then. Take care.